simplified, has to be plain. If possible, it has to be localized. The other thing is that it must have feedback framework. Democracy is not, you know what they call, Yoruba will say, era soro magbesi, Democracy is not when I'm talking and you are not listening. It's a two-way closed feedback loop, which means I'm talking and I also understand I'm being heard and I'm also expecting a response from you. So if you are building those fiscal portals, it's extremely important that there must be a closed feedback loop in it. And you will see that whatever the government is building, if there's the work of the civil society, media, and non-state stakeholders to build things on top of that layer. For example, if you look into the Nigerian budget today, there is over 32,000 pages of the Nigerian budget. Now, the question is, how am I going to make sense? How am I going to condense that? How am I going to be able to make sense out of that? That is where a convention like budget will come out and say, you know what? We'll bring out all the road projects. We'll bring out all the electricity projects, all the street light projects, even though we know how much we are clashing with the National Assembly on issues like this. Or we'll say, this is the amount to spend on education, on health. So, but first, the National Assembly or the government must build portals that are easy and accessible. Because there are different organizations who are willing to engage and build platforms and intelligence on top of that. And that's been the thesis of budget since we started 14 years ago. How do we take the budget from a very difficult place and make it easy and simple and accessible for people so that we can elevate debates as necessary within a democracy? The other things you also see is project tracking. If you are going to build portals, a great way where civil society has done work is about project tracking. And I'm happy that the EFC chair is here. And I'm happy also the BPP chair, DG said, he has even submitted over 500 petitions to anti-corruption agencies because the evidence is in the data. If we track projects and it's not properly done, it's wrongly done, it's wrongly addressed, because a road project that you did with public money and you now said this road was done by, we push back on those narratives. If you do things like that, it means that we are not strengthening the tracking framework. But that's what civil society has done. For example, its budget, we've tracked over 19,644 projects that we value at 3.5 trillion naira. We've facilitated completion, us putting pressure on requisite agencies of over 11,000 projects. Now, the challenge is that how do we make that wholesale? How do we make sure that government is also on boarding with all of this? And how have we done this? Because a key part of this presentation is to talk about the social media too. One thing we have done is we've used that platform to amplify the issues. So we are not the most loved social media handle, but we believe it's our duty and responsibility to government, to the citizens, to the memory of even those who are not born, and to our service to the community, that details of the public projects must be interrogated and must be shared. And in places we have found it to be wrong, we will say it. In places we have found it to be right, we will say that. So it's extremely important that as we build heavily, we understand the role of social media in amplifying conversations. And when we amplify, we also want to get response from government, because it's not just about us saying these things and getting people fatigued and apathetic about it. It also means that we expect that government should respond about this in the real sense of democracy. The other thing is real-time engagement and pressure from citizens. So if we are speaking, it's not budget alone speaking. We have citizens who are engaging with these issues, and they are even encouraging them to write to their members of National Assembly. I'm sure most members of National Assembly will have seen letters from budget or tracker about projects that it was supposed to be done from their own community. Because I won't lie, there are many members of National Assembly who don't go home. Once they get elected, they stay back in Abuja. And it's the constituency that is writing them letter. And I'm wondering, how are you not even visiting the constituency in the right place? So that real-time engagement and pressure from the citizens is what this portal is connected to social media to build a form of transformation about. And we've seen multiple examples of where we are in Nigeria. So we might say we tweet something in Ikotepene, and we do not even understand there is a deeper history to that project. So people are able to share with us about all of those things. And one of the things we wanted launching in this quarter is what we call the State Fiscal Fellows Program as budget. Because we realize that our attention at the federal government is very, very high. And it's expected. I mean, that's almost 52% of the revenue. It's been shared at FAC. A lot of attention is paid to that. But we also know that states are having more resources now, and we need to pay more attention to them. So we want to set up what we call the Fiscal Fellows Program. Now, these are not our staff. These are volunteers in states that are interested about the fiscal status of every state. So these teams will meet periodically. After we would obviously train them, because we also don't want people to be sensational. We want people to understand the required analysis for public finance. So we will train them to also be able to interrogate constantly the financial status of their states. Because while we are wondering about federal government spend this, on that, if you dig deeper into the state budgets or the state finances, you will see things that are much more ridiculous, if you allow me to use that word. So very important that thinking through how, and all of this, we source them from social media. We put a note there, who wants to join a fiscal transparency fellowship program for a state, so that the people of Abia State are the people analyzing Abia State issues. The people of Ondo State are the people analyzing Ondo State issues. And we are beginning to see intense discussions and interest about that. And we want to see where all of that will take us to. The other part is also how journalists take things from social media and exploit them effectively. Now, we'll share 3 case studies. One is how much Tracker has done in terms of budget implementation gaps on Twitter. The second thing is what we build with GovSpend. Almost every story you see on platforms, Premium Times, Daily Trust, Sahara Reporter, Sponge, about government spending is mined from a platform called GovSpend. And GovSpend's data is drawn from the opentreasury.gov.ng. And it's simply about people tracking the spending of government. Because opentreasury.gov.ng was built, but it was built it was not user-friendly, difficult and challenging for you to access. And we've now built a crawling layer on top of that, so that you can now easily access it at any different level. So you have journalists running through the Open Treasury portal that we have built, and are using that to be able to break down on different things that's done. So one way fiscal portals has changed. The last point is, how do we also ensure feedback loop from the National Assembly? Budget is not trying to be the best friend of the National Assembly. We're also not trying to be the worst enemy to the National Assembly. But we understand that our mutual intersection is at the place of accountability. It's a constitutional rule of the National Assembly to hold everybody in the government to account. And why that is important, we can also see is where we can help. And that's why we'll continue this robust engagement with the Public Account Committee. If I were to give 6 recommendations as I close this session, one thing I would go big on is the digital infrastructure around our transparency portals have to be improved. Either what we have at the Budget Office, at Nokopo, or what we have at Open Treasury. The digital infrastructure has to improve. We have done them, but we have not improved the infrastructure to be able to even improve access. The second thing is, how do we even mainstream digital literacy and civic education? I think it was the CBN governor that was complaining that how many people, I looked at the number of downloads for maybe MPC reports, maybe not up to 1,000. There are issues in terms of even the language where things are being broken down. So how do we also improve civic education and literacy? Because we have to be mindful of the environments that we have, that literacy level is within a spectrum. So we can't keep putting words in the language of the experts. How do we mainstream civic education and digital literacy? How do we also operationalize feedback mechanisms? The reality is that civil society can't just be talking, or citizens can't just be talking. We are discussing about value for money here. We are discussing about public resources being advanced here. So if citizens spotlight issues, the entire organ of government is supposed to react to it. I mean, either from the EFCC, either from the Public Accounts Committee, either from the Budget Office, either from the Line Ministry, either from the internal audit systems that we have built. The funny thing or the interesting about our democracy is that the framers of our systems were very deliberate. And I was sharing with my colleague that only 2 committees are mentioned in the Constitution. Only 2 National Assembly committees are mentioned in the Constitution. I might be wrong, but I think they are the Public Accounts Committee and the Appropriation Committees. The Joint Committee of Finance and the Public Accounts Committee. Now, it tells you how they were deliberate and how they understood how central these committees are critical to national accountability framework. So we also must invest them in them much more. To Federal Character Committee. Okay, I missed that. Committee, okay. To leverage on those things. The other thing also we must do is that we must also strengthen a lot of adoption. Adoption alone can't be done by government alone. I remember when the government was trying to build a portal to rank ministers, and I said, first question, I said, my team, have we spoken to most civil society organizations in the development of that system so that we can build a community around it? It's not just sensible for us to build portals and platforms. We must deliberately cultivate a community around it. We must be able to say, who are the people that are most enthusiastic about public finance in this country? How do we cultivate a community around it? So that we don't build a portal, nice, fancy, interesting, exciting, but nobody's interrogating it, nobody's engaging it, nobody's building on it. One to the last point has to do with how do we also strengthen partnerships with the civil society and media. There was a time where budget used to support the NABRO, which is the National Assembly Budget and Research Office. And I'm happy that maybe now that we have PACE, maybe they can also facilitate those conversations. But the work between the National Assembly and the government, the entire arm of government, and the civil society and the media, there has to be some formalization of that conversation. Because there are capacities that are needed from the civil society that can be transmitted to the National Assembly. And I've shown an example of how we work with NABRO. The final thing is social media. I know a lot of us that are National Assembly members or citizens, we now run from social media. We have seen the pattern. We think people also now pick and choose the social media. They feel that Twitter is very aggressive, so they deliberately just stay away from Twitter and now maybe focus on Facebook. Or some of them are even out on to influencers, and they are now just TikTok and Instagram, and all you see as a member of National Assembly is the videos and the reels. He went inside the room, he came out of the room, he sat down, you understand. We also think that how social media is being used, it's not effective enough. It is a medium to build unfiltered engagement. Obviously, there will be people who will say ridiculous, incredible things that are not meant to be said, but it also comes with the work, because we, even as civil society organizations, get those pushback a lot. So my also final advice, is that social media platforms that are built for engagement, we, National Assembly members, civil society, citizens, let's also use it to strengthen debate and engagement, because that is the only way we can be more useful to the communities and the constituents that we serve. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much. Let's give another round of applause for Mr. Onigbinde. Yeah, please, let's take notes and be mindful that we'll do a joint session after the 2 breakout sessions, and then there will be 1 or 2 persons that will be sharing what they've learned from their breakout session. So the next session we're going to take is going to be interagency and intergovernmental coordination and peer learning mechanism for public service delivery. And the person that is going to facilitate this session will be Mrs. Didi Esther Wilson Jack, OONMNI, Head of Civil Service of the Federation. I know she is fully represented here, Okay. So we'll take consultant, please. Are you representing? So you're going to try to concise to the best that you can. You have 10 minutes, please. Thank you.
So, distinguished members of the National Assembly, ladies and gentlemen, I am Beatrice J.D. Agba, MNI, Solicitor General of the Federation and Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Justice. And I have been directed to deliver the remarks of the Honorable Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Mrs. Esther Didi Wilson-Jack, at this session. I'd like to also apologize for her absence, and it's due to exigencies of duty, but I assure you that her heart is here. So we'll be speaking on interagency, intergovernmental coordination, and peer learning mechanisms for public service delivery. I begin with a quote that says, "When we share our challenges, we halve them. And when we share our solutions, we multiply them." It's an honor for me to stand before distinguished leaders who collectively share the weight of our mandate to strengthen public trust through accountable, efficient, and coordinated governance. Across the world, the most resilient public services are not those with the biggest budgets, but those with the strongest networks of collaboration. And further on in the course of the paper, we'll be taking cues from collaborative systems and approaches across global civil services, including Singapore, Canada, and the UAE. Here in Nigeria, we have many frameworks that clearly recognize this truth. No single MDA, no single tier of government can deliver sustainable development by itself. Yet, our progress often stalls when institutional silos persist. Budgets get lost, and lessons fail to flow horizontally and vertically when they are needed most. And that's why this topic sits at the heart of public trust. As I share insights on this session, I do so with the understanding that my role is not to prescribe a universal blueprint, but rather to pose hard questions that will challenge us to think very critically, to test our assumptions, reflect on our collective experiences, and draw lessons which can translate into practice. So I would like to invite you all today to approach this dialogue in that spirit, not just as passive listeners seeking ready-made solutions, but as senior custodians of public trust, willing to interrogate where we stand and what must shift, and how we can align or realign our efforts horizontally and vertically for the benefit of the Nigerian people. It's important that we keep an open mind to learn from the world, to face our local realities, and focus on thinking of practical frameworks that can help us standardize and sustain quality public service. Now, why is this topic important? In an increasingly complex governance environment, working in isolation is no longer viable. Citizens expect seamless, joined-up government, whether they are engaging with the federal, state, or local government institutions. Therefore, coordination failures can quietly drain resources and efforts, dilute impact. In recent years, there have been some frameworks that have been set up, like the PEBEC reforms, and also certain digital platforms like IPPIS, reforms in public procurement, etc. But it's important that these continue, this interagency collaboration and intergovernmental collaboration works such that these reform efforts can be visible and beneficial to the people that we have been elected or appointed to serve. It's important to note that societal issues don't respect boundaries, bureaucratic boundaries. Very recently, the head of the Civil Service of the Federation led a team of permanent secretary and senior government officials to Dubai, UAE. And we saw how integrated service portals like Dubai Now and AI-supported smart police stations eliminate redundancies and put citizens, not agencies, at the center of reform efforts. Now, I'd like to say that our NDAs often share overlapping mandates, but it can be a strength when aligned. However, it can also be a burden when siloed. So the question we must ask is, how well are MDAs collaborating together on joint mandates? Are these cases of duplication or gaps draining our resources or the efforts that we're making? What lessons can we build on? How might emerging tools such as AI-driven data sharing, e.g. single citizen records, bridge coordination gaps across overlapping MDAs? Now, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, reminds us that collaboration is the new leadership. But for it to be effective, it must be properly institutionalized, not left to goodwill or chance. So it's not something that we should take for granted. PEBEC also offers an example of how MDAs can collaborate through a unified service window to resolve systemic bottlenecks. And through that unified window, I note, particularly from experience, that they've achieved a lot from that framework. Similarly, Servicom, which was established to ensure that citizens receive quality, timely, and fair services, also provides a foundational framework for interagency collaboration. Its core objectives include improving service standards, promoting accountability, and institutionalizing a culture of continuous feedback and citizen-centered service delivery. Now, it's very important for us to know that our federal structure gives us diversity and reach. But what we would like to see is that policy intentions in Abuja translate into results at state and local government levels, which means that at federal, state, and local governments must align standards, budgets, and delivery mechanisms. So what mechanisms do we have today to address asymmetries in service delivery and fiscal capacity? Our fiscal transfers and co-financing models like UBE and the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund achieving what they are meant to do? How do we strengthen institutional frameworks for joint planning and peer accountability so that policies translate into tangible results everywhere? And when I say everywhere, at local government levels, at the very basic levels. And so there are other issues that we can dwell on, such as peer review, which is really important, and I just would like to dwell on it for a second, just to say that it's not just a developmental partner buzzword. It's a manner or a way for MDAs and chairs of government to benchmark themselves, share learnings, and create healthy competition for quality outcomes. So it's very important that we move from episodic reviews to institutionalized peer benchmarking frameworks that are integrated into national monitoring systems. We can learn from various models like the Kenya Huduma centers, where performance benchmarking is built into public service delivery and reviewed across countries. So there are quite a number of issues. But I think that it's important also we almost also should take an example from the service-wide GPT, which was recently adopted and established by the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation. That AI app has the potential to radically transform how we standardize our processes and harmonize interagency service delivery and embed a culture of continuous learning across the public service. So imagine a civil servant in Nasarawa or Lagos or Akwa Ibom assessing the same standard operating procedures, compliance templates, and service dashboards, all aligned with national performance benchmarks. As I said, we have various institutions across the globe that we can copy from: Singapore, UAE, Canada. So it's important for me to challenge you all to take the opportunity to reflect on a few issues. Where do we break the silos? Who else should be at the table to co-create solutions? What one or two or even three changes can we commit to making that can make coordination real and not just aspirational? I'd like to close by reminding us that, again, that real coordination and peer learning are not abstract concepts. They are frameworks that must be standardized, tested, and embedded in our governance culture if we are to deliver consistent quality service, public service to every Nigerian. When we choose to collaborate, we multiply trust. When we multiply trust, we multiply results. An African proverb reminds us, when spiders unite, they can tie down a lion. This is the spirit of integrated governance that we need to move on to, from fiscal silos to a resilient, transparent system. On behalf of the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, I thank you for inviting us to be part of this discussion, and I thank you for the opportunity to share our insights. Thank you.
She's very athletic. She's going down herself. Please, let's give her a round of applause. Thank you very, very much. That clap is not loud enough. We can do better with that round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. We're expecting the other persons from the other hall to join us before we invite the executive chairman of the EFCC to address us. But before then, the man who is in charge, who is facilitating these Hall B, will take charge of proceedings for another, I think, 7 minutes or so. We can round up. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for him.
Thank you again. Let's do this quickly as we wrap up and waiting for the other facilitators to join us. Let me invite quickly for about 3 or 4 minutes. 3 minutes, yeah? Let me invite for 3 minutes Mr. Victor Morocco, Esquire, Chairman, CEO, Fiscal Responsibility Commission, to talk briefly on the debt control, transparency in fiscal matters, the imperative of operationalizing the Fiscal Responsibilities Act across the states. He is represented here by Dr. Chris Owadoka, the Special Advisor to the Chairman, Fiscal Responsibility Commission. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much. Distinguished Chairman, members of the National Assembly, and other dignitaries here, I have 3 minutes, but please allow me to use 1 minute to thank the organizers of this event, because I met somebody who looked rather young to be here yesterday. I asked him who invited him. He said he was a copper. He said he is a copper. I find it interesting, intriguing, and praiseworthy that our generation thought of the younger generation. Our problem in our generation is enforcement. The problem of the younger generation just may be capacity building, and this event has tried to take care of it, and I will encourage everyone who is organizing something of this level. I think they are coppers. They probably just ask them to come from NYSC. I'm to speak on behalf of Victor Muraco, who's been here for the past 3 days, the executive chairman of the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, but had to rush out this afternoon for a work emergency. Debt control and transparency in fiscal matters, the imperative of operationalizing the Fiscal Responsibility Act across the states. Basically, to make it simple and short, debt control means strategies and policies to manage a nation's borrowing responsibly. At the federal level, in order to be able to manage its borrowing responsibly, in order to enshrine Constitution and institutionalize it, the National Assembly enacted and the President signed the Fiscal Responsibility Act in 2007. It was to prevent a situation where there was uncontrolled debt, uncontrolled borrowing. Some debts could not be traced. Transparency was something you just couldn't mention. Accountability was illusionary. The federal government has done its own. Like the executive chairman of the Fiscal Responsibility Commission has said in the past 2 days, we have 54 offenses without a single punishment prescribed in the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Yes, the act is weak, but the question here is, we have one federation called the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is what the federal government has done. What have the states done? What should we do to improve coordination when it comes to debt control? How do we prevent, like the last speaker asked, operating in silos? How do we move from just complaining to implementing some cohesion around our debt management systems? And I have 3 recommendations. One is to understand that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria allows, mentions debt, indebtedness, and borrowing of the public sector as an exclusive legislative item. It's a federal legislative business. Therefore, to the extent that any state would legislate on it, to the extent that a state's legislation conflicts with that of the federal, it is null and void. As well, federal agencies who operate in the debt management ecosystem also have responsibilities over the states. I would want to say, please, to encourage the federal agencies to extend those responsibilities over states in issues of debt, indebtedness, and borrowing. Secondly, I'm almost rounding up. Secondly, states should be encouraged to enact their fiscal responsibility laws and to establish independent agencies to monitor and enforce those laws. Thirdly, I want to thank everybody. God bless you.
Thank you very much. I think the National Assembly has shown how much we love the Fiscal Responsibility Commission. We have had the most time slots during this program. We're going to take one last intervention from the Deputy Chief Whip of the Nigerian House of Representatives, Right Honorable Ibrahim A. Ishako, who will speak for just 5 minutes at this plenary before we invite the chairman of the EGO-I himself to take the podium. Please, the Deputy Chief Whip, 5 minutes, put your hands together for him. He's a subject matter expert and also a member of the National Assembly. We are going to take just 4 feedback from the audience, if we have the time. 3.
He asked me to spend the whole day. If only for my chairman, you know, even 3 hours is not enough for me. But for the want of time that is fast spent, I'm going to confine myself. I probably will give you even 30 seconds out of my 5 minutes. So don't be surprised. Thank you very much. Like I said, for want of time, I want to jump the protocols, but while standing on the ones already well established. But not minding this, I want to, on behalf of my principal, our principal, and the leadership of the House of Representatives, and of course, all other members of the House of Representatives, salute the courage, steadfastness of these committees, that of the Senate and that of the House. What I have before me is not that much, it's just to wrap up, and it's about the standardizing fiscal laws, financial reporting, and oversight tools across subnational governments in Nigeria. If we just take notice of what we've been discussing here in this workshop, in the last 2-3 days, it's obvious that it is lack of what I've just mentioned here that we have not been having our take-homes to harmonize and getting results. And of course, today, I will just provide a broad overview, what I refer to as a helicopter view of the global landscape. And like I said, because of time, I will have been able to give us comparative data analysis across the globe and lessons from reform case studies. Of course, I'm going to use Nigeria as an example, but delving into other countries of the world that have used all these tools, galvanized them to garnish their economy, and that made them to become the highest economies in the world. I may not have that time to say all that in my hand. And I'm so pregnant with statistics. And I hope the chairman will not allow my belly to burst if I'm not able to exhaust what I've been carrying for some few days now. Of course, I'll talk about the global context. Countries worldwide have recognized that standardized fiscal laws and reporting frameworks underpin economic stability. Do we agree with this? I'm sure definitely the House should agree with this with me. That when you have a harmonized, standardized laws and fiscal framework, definitely, when it's exactly what we have just been able to do through the tax laws that has just been passed by the National Assembly and assented to by the President. That is our focus. That's where we are driving at. And of course, that encapsulates why we are here today. Going forward, I want to use South Africa that has provincial fiscal framework, divisional revenue and expenditure framework across their provinces. They were able to put them together and look at the economy today of South Africa. The takeaways from here, there are many, but I don't want to bore us from that. I just want to draw us back a bit, again, that we should look at examples like the European Union member states and federal states like the United States of America, across board in all the states in America. We have the India and Germany. These nations have adopted uniform fiscal rules, transparent reporting standards, and robust oversight tools that facilitate economic resilience. Back home here in Nigeria, the recent reforms in Nigeria's tax laws hold a significant potential and a catalytic for economic transformation by streamlining tax policies, enhancing compliance, and offering targeted incentives. These laws aim to boost domestic revenue generation and attract foreign direct investment Such measures can foster a more conducive business environment, stimulate entrepreneurship, and reduce reliance on oil exports. Because if only for what we have about the tax alone in this country, I'm not too sure that our worries about oil export, whether it drops to $24 today or $30 tomorrow, perhaps, but because of the leakages, non-transparent environment at which all of, and everybody is even just buying and printing receipts across board and tearing it and collecting all these monies into their pocket. Hopefully, from January 2026, when the implementation of this, our regulated tax laws and harmonized one, commences, I'm sure that within 6 months, when we'll be tracking the key performance and the indicators, Nigeria will have been able to say yes. We probably may not be there, but at least there's a springboard that we have moved forward. I want to just, my time cannot be up. Then I want to conclude by just telling us that perhaps for me to remind this of the distinguished ladies and gentlemen that the House Committee on Public Accounts, of all the key performance and indicators of the House of Representatives, as that we have always been boasting of, this House Committee, I'm sorry I don't have the statistic for the Senate, but at least the Committee of the Public Accounts have been able to recover over 61 billion naira. Am I right with that? It's 200 billion naira. If you are not going to clap for them, I'm going to use my only one to clap. You see, Mr. Chairman, with due respect, please stand up. Let the public see you well. I mean, we're not talking politics here. We are talking about the trajectory. And this is the first time in the annal history of Nigeria. And you can now imagine if this had been harmonized for a very long time ago. So even Mr. Speaker was so bold enough yesterday to mention this when we were looking at our scorecard. The scorecards in the House of Representatives cannot be completed without mentioning the activities of this committee. So on behalf of the leadership of the House, my principal, and the entire members of the National Assembly, we want to say thank you very much to your team, and thank you for making us and making us proud. Thank you very much.
Please, his time is not up, but his time on the podium was up. Please, can we give him another round of applause? Thank you. Thank you very, very much indeed. Very quickly, because of the exigencies of his office, he won't be able to stay with us beyond now. And so it is pertinent that we just get him to speak to us very briefly. And please, I'd like that you permit me just to take a moment to recognize a man whose strength and quiet strength and resolute leadership are redefining frontiers of anti-corruption in Nigeria. The Executive Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Ola Olukoyede. Mr. Okoyede is not just doing a good job, he is doing a yeoman's job, fearlessly steering the EFCC with clarity of purpose, integrity, and unwavering commitment to transparency and justice. His strategic reforms are known to all of us and is centered around people approach and restoring public confidence in the fight against corruption and fiscal abuse. Today, we salute your courage. Please, can we welcome him with a very resounding applause as he gives us his remarks. My pleasure, sir.
Thank you, Andy. The Chair Senate Committee on Public Accounts, distinguished Senator Ali Wadada, the Chair House Committee on Public Accounts, Honorable Bamidele Salam, permit me to most respectfully, very honorably, and most distinguishedly recognize all the dignitaries in the House. Like I told them in the audience where I went to address them a while ago, it will be pretty difficult for me to start mentioning names. And everybody there is a VIP. And so that if I had skipped somebody's name, I will not be accused of suspecting that person has done something. I don't want to leave this place accused. So permit me to please recognize everyone in the house. Thank you very much. A keynote address was delivered on my behalf yesterday. I'd like to also apologize for my inability to make it down here yesterday. I was engaged with some other official assignment. It is my delight to be in your midst. If there's any engagement that should attract my attention and my interest, it should be this. Because this has a direct bearing on my mandate. The issue of fiscal rascality and resource misgovernance is a major problem in Nigeria. And we must own up to that. Illicit financial flows is an issue of great national concern, considering its impact on the security and economic social well-being of Nigerians. When I look at the way our resources are being managed, it gives a great concern. And I'd like to commend the Public Accounts Committee of both houses of the National Assembly for the great work they're doing. When the House Committee came to pay us a courtesy visit, we agreed on the way to move forward, on the need for regular engagement. And I challenge them that it's important for us. Let us start with ourselves. Let's start with ourselves. We're carrying out an agency or commission-wide investigation of the extractive industry, particularly the oil and gas industry. In the last 3 weeks, what we have discovered is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. And it's just at the peripheral. We are just opening the books. We are just starting. I tell you, anywhere I go outside Nigeria, when I look at them, I look the way they run their system. We don't have any business borrowing money in this part of the world. We don't. Countries that only live on tax. But because their revenue is well managed, transparently and accountably, they survive. They survive. Everywhere you turn to in Nigeria is natural resources. Everywhere we turn to. Everywhere. But our ability to ensure transparency in resource management, accountability in resource management, this is for the people. And let the people have the opportunity to make use of it. That's all. That's all what we need. And that's where your work lies, sir. I don't envy you, and I'm very sure you don't envy me too. We need to do this work, and we'll do it. We will succeed. Nigeria will get out of this mess. If we are resolute, we are resolute. The administration we have now is the best opportunity. If we miss it now, I pity Nigeria. If we miss it under this administration, that we have every opportunity to make things right. Let's put politics aside for once in our lifetime. Let's put ethnicity aside. There's a very strong connection between the issue of mismanagement of our resources and insecurity. Very strong connection between mismanagement of our resources and all the menaces you see all over the place. Banditry, kidnapping, and all the stuff you see. I did analysis when I was secretary in the FCC to the commission. And I placed the analysis before the National Assembly during my Senate confirmation. What was stolen in Nigeria in 1 year? That 90% of it ended abroad. I gave an analysis of how many hospitals that we can build, millions of students that we can train from primary to the tertiary level, and so on and so forth. And so, if we're able to, in 1 year, manage our resources prudentially, particularly in the area of capital budget, if you can do, let's assume, if you can be resolute and do 60% of the execution of our capital budget in Nigeria in between 2025 and 2026, we will be fine. We have infrastructure to empower medium and small scale industries. That's what we need. Last month alone, I was in about 3, 4, or 5 countries, chasing our resources all over the place. Because the session I'm supposed to speak is on illicit financial flows. I got to a place, somebody told me, I met an ambassador of a country there, and he told me, look, they have an estate that they are trying to give me, details on that is owned by Nigeria. You know the country? Iceland. Iceland. I say, Iceland, okay. Of all places again? We're talking of America, we are talking of Europe, we are talking of Turkey, we are talking of Iceland. I'm not sure there's any country under this heaven that doesn't have Nigerian resources, where people have stolen our money and assets. Now we're in this era of cryptocurrency again. I'm chasing assets all over the place, buildings, money in accounts, cryptocurrency. That one is more terrible. You know my position, sir, over this illicit financial flow. Let us block our leakages. There is no amount of capacity I develop, effort I put in place, that I will be able to recover half of what I've stolen from Nigeria. That is the reality. No matter how proficient you are. Those countries don't want to let go. And they will not let go. They will not. They will not. I was telling them at the United Nations Forum, I think in December, I said, look, in our place, under our laws, and I know a lot of international conventions, the custodian of stolen assets is as guilty as the one that has stolen the money. They were not happy. They were grumbling with me. When I finished my talk, none of them shook hands with me. I didn't care. You are an accessory after the fact. So if you are holding on to our assets, we will look at you with the eyes that we look at the person who has stolen the assets from Nigeria, even though they are our own people. So it's the right time we came together and said we can plug some of these leakages. There is no country you go in the world that they will allow their resources to be pilfered or to be taken out of their jurisdiction the way we allow it in Nigeria. Go to any country, whatever you want to bring in, they will allow you to bring it in. But for you to take out, even with your legitimate investment, is a problem. It's a problem. We have over 700 federal MDAs. I don't know what your capacity of the two houses to investigate all these MDAs. If we don't build internal fraud risk processes that can checkmate leakages, how many books are you going to look at, sir? We had the story of your discovery on the, it's not your committee, on the NNPC. We are still grappling with that. There are some that are worse than NNPC. Yeah. That's number one. We were talking about compliance. The same country, we are complaining, things are bad. We are doing this work. We see people who have stolen our money. We have shown you evidence. We have traced where the money went to. We are in court already. You start celebrating them all over the place. Does it even show that we are serious at all? Put sentiment apart. Put politics apart. We are talking of rescuing the soul of Nigeria. Forget about me. Forget about the members of this committee. Forget about other law enforcement agencies doing this work passionately. I will do my bit and move on. Even in the National Assembly, you will serve one day. You will leave the place. The system remains. What are we going to hand over to the people coming behind us? Nobody wants to comply. Even when we are saying that we must comply, the same system, the same people will vitiate you. Don't mind them. Invite somebody for a statement. The whole world, you are under pressure. Let us learn from the little places of compliance. Little places of compliance. I don't like to talk too much because I don't want to give out what I don't have to give out. But again, I'm going to conclude like this. I will beg the National Assembly. I've been begging for the past 1 year. I will still continue to beg, sirs. Help me pass unexplained wealth law. Unexplained wealth law. There has been a bill in the last assembly. It was thrown out. The bill is still there. I will represent it. So that we make every Nigerian accountable for what you have. I have facts, I have evidence, I have statistics, I have things that I can say, look, the moment I'm not able to establish a predicate offense, it's a problem. When there is an evidence to show that this one has been working in a particular ministry for 20 years, and I've given you the statistics of all his salaries, and I'm presenting to you that the same person owns 5 houses, 2 in Betama, 3 in Asokoro, you are still telling me to go and bring predicate offenses? But if you help me pass the unexplained wealth order, that one is street liability. The moment that you are living beyond your means of livelihood. Honorable Salam, this is your cloth. I look at it. It's made in Austria. I look at your salary. All your allowance is put together as an honorable member. In 3 months, you can't afford to buy it. From here, I will drag you to my office. Come and write statements. And I know from there you will remove it and say, take, Chairman, take. I don't want to allow. All the women, all my sisters in the house now, if I ask you to bring your jewelries, and I value it, on a serious note, we need to get to that point. We are an average Nigerian is made accountable for what you have. Not until we do that, we won't get it right. No matter the things we do together and all of that, there will always be an escape route. So on this note, I want to commend you, sir, for what you are doing. We will get there. Let's be resolute. Forget about the distractions on social media. They will abuse us. All this one you are doing, and they will abuse you. I'm used to it. Forget about it. Let's be focused. We will get there. We will make Nigeria great. We will make Nigeria proud again. Thank you very much.
Please, can we give him a bigger round of applause, Mr. Chairman of the EFCC? As I said, we salute your courage, we applaud your vision, and deeply appreciate the critical role that the EFCC continues to play under your watch in shaping the future of fiscal governance in Nigeria. Please, that applause for him can come even better. Those of you who want to see a change in Nigeria, can we make that applause for him a lot louder? Thank you so very much. The words of Mr. Ola Olukoyede, I thank you very, very much. And I think at this point, we'll take 2 quick interventions as directed by Chibuzo Okereke, PhD, before we come over to the men and women on the side. Yes, please just indicate by a raise of hand. A raise of hand. There's one hand there. we said two, please, not more than two hands. So we have two hands already. One man there, one man there. Sir, I'm just saying you, but we've been directed to take two. Sir. Thank you. Can we get the microphone? There's microphone here. Please come and pick this one quickly. Come and pick this one quickly so that they can do they may give us their interventions. So whilst that is going on, can I invite the two chairmen of the committees of Public Accounts Commission Committee, I beg your pardon, and then the EFCC chairman to please join them for a photo opportunity. Let's take the two interventions before we do that. Quickly, please, your name, sir?
Pahwa Yusuf Mohammed from Adamawa. My own is just contribution and question too. My contribution is this. I want to thank the organizers of this conference. At least everybody benefited. My contribution is this. At least at this session, the last speaker, everybody sees how the place was lively. Invitation was served to several people, that key stakeholders here. They didn't honor the decision, the invitation, though they said it's because of one engagement somewhere or the other. Had it been that the chairman, the CBN governor is here, the ICPC, though the representation made something very reasonable, but at least this thing should have been more lively had it been that those people were around. So I'm encouraging the organizers of this committee sometimes that if an invitation is given to you for such program, please honor it. That is one. On the issue of corruption, sir, we can only minimize it. It cannot be controlled, all these things. Let me borrow leave from our brother Fiela. Maybe he said that this thing before because maybe the law were weak that time, or sometimes the law is not enforced. Fiela was telling his brother Falana, he said, my brother, leave this your law aside. Leave your law aside. Maybe the law was weak or it was not enforced. He said, in those days, in our culture, when somebody steals, we call him thief. And when we call him thief, his children will go to school, he will be stigmatized, and they call children of thieves. So this is how we control stealing in those days. So my advice here is National Assembly should please enact another law in our own cultural way. Let's be a stakeholder in fighting this corruption from our states, local government, and even our communities. Let them enact a law in such a way that everybody should call a person a thief in his own language, so that if your children are being stigmatized, I think you should think forward. Then the last one, if we can harness the resources of this country, every day tax law, 4 tax reforms we are passed by National Assembly this time around. If we can harness this, our resources of this country, sir, I think money from tax is secondary.
We need to move on. Thank you. Time is of the essence. Kindly bear with us. Let me yield the floor to the second hand that was raised so they can make his contributions. Please keep it very brief and straight to the point for want of time. Thank you, sir. Your name and the agency or the state you represent, sir.
Distinguished, permit me to stand on the existing protocol. My name is Salman Muhammad Kibia from Northwest University, Kano. My observation is with regards to the presentations yesterday and today, I observed that there is a policy with regards to the establishment of the anti-corruption agencies at the MDS level. So I think since we have to be preventive, proactive, I think there should be a mechanisms that will ensure that this system is very, very effective. Not that establishment is very, very effective. Then number two, with regards to the relationship between the NFIU, the anti-corruption agencies, and the MDS, I would like to also note that there is effective mechanisms that will provide feedback so that these things will be checkmate as soon as possible. So these are the things. And also, in the remarks of the representative of the EFCC yesterday, he reported that with regards to the revenues that have been reported are merely speculative, not actual. So I think I would like to know also what the agencies are doing to ensure that all these are being addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you very much indeed. Please bring the microphone here. The chairman, Committee on Public Accounts of the House of Representatives would like to make some very quick intervention. Let's hand over the microphone to him. Representative Bamidele Salam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Senate Committee on Park, the Chairman EFCC, and all the other guests in the House. I want to thank everyone who has spoken in this session. And I want to thank my brother, the Chairman of the EFCC, for that very inspiring speech he delivered. A few comments to some of the presentations we've had this afternoon. The first one is to my friend and my brother, Sheon Nigbede. By the way, I want to thank you for the great work you're doing. I said this yesterday when we were talking about citizen engagement on budget and procurement tracking. The great work you do through Tracker is very, very, very inspiring. Forget the fact that there are times when, public office holders will put pressure, will make complaints. I've also complained before, especially when someone from my constituency was taking an undue advantage of that platform to vent his bitterness. And what was it that happened then? Just a quick context. There was a road that I facilitated in a particular community that was done 2 years earlier. And this person went to a different location and stood on a road that is unpaved and said, this is the road that was said to have been done 2 years ago. And then Tracker picked it up and published. And I felt really, really offended. But I'm saying in spite of those, the work you do is very, very commendable. And I want to thank you publicly for that. And I know that there's always a room for improvement in anything good, that has been done. So meanwhile, you made a reference to the fact that the budget tracking platforms, monitoring platforms ought to be government-owned. I want to disagree. There is nowhere in the world that governments can be, and don't forget I'm a part of government, can be wholly trusted on the issue of accountability. It is actually the fear, in quotes, of the public that drives most government institutions to do the right thing. And it's that time we empowered our civil society to do much more, the media to do much more. Because there is no way you can have a country as big as this, as complex as this, that you will not have people that want to exploit one loophole or the other in doing things untoward. But it's my conviction that if you have a very active, very honest civil society and media, a lot of people in public offices will be put on their toes. Because just like, the FCC will say there's the eagle eye that is watching on you. But where you have a compromised civil society or a compromised or fearful media, that is where the problem comes up from. So I think that what we should aim to do is to improve on these structures, on these platforms, and let them be more owned by the civil society. That is one way, to get it right. Also, there's this thing, I usually refer to as the big man's curse in Nigeria. Everybody here, or 90% of those of us who are here, are big people. That's the truth. The common men are somewhere else. 99% of us here are VIPs. And there's a big man's curse in Nigeria. Somebody talked about, unlocking revenue. I think it was I can't remember who made that comment about revenue, that are locked up. And I said today, if you take a sample of VIPs in Nigeria today and ask how many of us have renewed our vehicle licenses, vehicle papers in the last 3-4 years, you will be shocked. Because the assumption is that as a VIP, there's no one that will even stop you to ask for your papers. And these are where the revenue is. Recently, the Minister of FCT was talking about payment of ground rent in Abuja. How many persons can own a land in Abuja if you are not a big man or a big woman? Yet, these small payments that will help us to earn the revenue to fix the country are being kept off by the big men. So unless we jointly agree together that we need to do a turnaround, this one is not, there is no magic that will fix this country if we don't decide on our own that enough is enough. Let's just turn around. If you are owing land, you have a land rent to pay, and the land has been given to you for 5 years, most often and then you refuse to even pay the 2 million, 3 million that will come to government, renew your license and do this other thing. So I think this is an area that we should look at. If we're a country that promotes rule of law, it will be better for all of us. The whistleblower law that somebody also spoke about is similar to the one you. By the time we see this bill, I was in the Net Assembly. Unfortunately, I didn't remember seeing this bill. But you see, this living beyond means bill, we come unexplained wealth. We come with so many things. Before now, sorry, I'm taking time. Before now, I used to complain seriously about our personnel in the airport who always beg for money when people are traveling. I feel embarrassed that when you go to every other part of the world, you move this and that. But when you get to our own airport, you encounter this. And I used to be offended. But about maybe 2 years ago, I began to change my perception about that. And what happened? I had to have an engagement with one of those personnel. And I'm not explaining, I'm not excusing anything here. But where you have a personnel of the Nigerian Immigration Service who earns 130,000 naira in a month, and you post him or her to the Lagos International Airport. Now, 130,000 naira cannot, nobody, I don't know the magic that can make anyone who is married with only one kid, who lives in Lagos, to survive on 130,000, 150,000, 180,000. I don't know the magic. So it means there is a gap. So that person has two choices to fill that gap. The first choice is to be doing night duty, which is to look for a gun or a knife and be going to people's houses to rob them at night to fill the gap. The second choice is to beg people that pass through the airport to give him or her money. We need to look at our wage structure. Is a recent video of a police officer who retired as an SP. I don't know who saw that video. No, not ASP. It's an SP.
SP. Oh, Chief Superintendent.
Okay,
CSP. Yes, sir.
Who, after all, went to get his entitlement, and all he was given was 3 million, 2 million naira.
No, 3. 3 was given. Naira. 2 million was for his gratuity.
These things raise a lot of questions that, as we are trying to address the issue of corruption, living beyond one's means, and whatever, because if you say somebody is living beyond his means, we should go and arrest that man that is earning 150,000. How are you actually living with this? How are you surviving? How are you even sending your children to private school? And then it cascades, or it ascends from there, to the top. So I think we should address this problem as a people, so that if we are able to mobilize enough revenue, enough, like we are saying, let us have living wages for people who are especially in the public service. For nobody's money is enough. So even those of us in the parliament, we don't earn enough. Yes, I know people will laugh. I am very sure people will laugh. If I tell you I earn 620,000 naira, you will say, okay. Now you see.
Thank you, sir.
So all right. All right, I hear you. I'm just saying that just like the people who work in AFCC have special salary, let us also have special salary, especially in the Public Account Committee. I want to sincerely thank everyone who has spoken. And my leader, thank you so much for that commendation from the House for our committee. And these recoveries that they're talking about, a little context also to it, is not anything. The Auditor General for the Federation submitted a report to the Public Account Committee indicating that there are monies under oil, royalties, concessional rentals, gas flaring penalties that have been owned the Federation account from the year 2021, running to trillions of naira. And we wrote a letter to the NUPRC to provide us with the details of those who are sitting on the money. And it was on the basis of that that we had 57 oil and gas companies listed as owing this money to the Federation account. And then we began the investigation, and then, you know, the recoveries began to come in. But as good as that news is, sir, as we speak, there are almost 14 of those companies that have consistently refused to respond to invitation for records, invitation for documents, and appearances. And, sir, some of these companies are being owned by the high and the mighty in this country. We can't mention names so that we don't also judge them by the high and the mighty. And that is just one sector, like you said, with the investigation you said you started doing. In so many, there's one particular agency of government that the law says this oil and gas company should be paying 1% of their taxes to. You should know the company, the agency I'm talking about now. And this law was passed 11 years ago. As we speak, there are some of these concerns that have not paid once. If you unveil the identity of the owners, they are the big men of Nigeria. Very, very, very big men. For whom these monies are like chicken change, yet they refuse to pay. So these are some of the challenges that we also face as a parliament. We have challenges with resources. Believe it or not, we are resource challenged even in doing this work. We hired a team of consultants on the remitter investigation. The remitter investigation disclosed monies running into trillions of naira. At least about 400 billion naira are trapped that were paid by end users of products that did not hit TSA account. We have that report submitted already before the House. Trillions of naira on some other heads. We hired, you know what it costs to hire a consultant. As we speak, we have not been able to pay the consultant 1 naira. This was the chairman of the subcommittee, sir. Honorable Timothy Adelegba is a former banker. We have not been able to pay because we don't have the resources. And how do you do this work if you don't have a consultant? I'm a lawyer. My deputy chairman, yes, though an accountant, has so many other responsibilities on him to do. He's not an employee of the National Assembly. We need to develop capacity, get resources. And we look forward to as much of this support that we can get in the course of time. So once again, I want to thank you all for this very wonderful conversation. It's like we should keep it on and on and on. But I'm sure it will not be the end. We'll do more. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for the chairman. Please, may I kindly request that the EFCC chairman and the 2 chairmen of the Public Accounts Committees of the National Assembly joins the woman representing the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Justice, representing and standing in for the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. Please, let's join them here, sir, for a photograph. Please, just kindly oblige us very briefly before we bring it to a close so that we can allow for those setting up for dinner to be able to set up this hall. Deputy Chair, please join them. Is the Deputy Chairman of the Senate? Okay, no, he's not here. But if there is another senator from the Public Accounts Committee that is here, can please join them as well for this photograph. Thank you very much. The woman should be in the middle. Let's have you sandwich the woman, and then the EFCC chairman somewhere right there in the middle as well. Thank you very much. And I think I'll be pleading with the chairman EFCC, if I won't be asking for too much, after this group photo opportunity with you, I'd like to have 1, 2, sir. You're not even clapping for Miss Moore. What I'd like to give Miss Moore now. Thank you very much. And I think after this photo opportunity, lunch is served, and then we reconvene at 6:30 for dinner. 6 p.m., I beg your pardon, 6 p.m. for dinner. Lunch is served for the VIPs. VIPs where? VIPs will be going to the FCT hall for lunch. VIPs will go to the EFCC, I say EFCC hall, FCT hall. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. Let me also have an opportunity with my chairman, sir. Lunch is served. Camera. Gala night is for 6 o'clock in this same hall, Congress Hall, Transcorp Hilton Hotel. Please don't miss out. Thank you so very much.
So please, our conference materials will be shared on the website of the House of Representatives Park Committee. Some of them will also be, so at the website is on the program, www.revspark.org. The materials will be shared there for us. And this evening, we are going to be having the grand finale of this conference with Chairman of Park Committees from the State Houses of Assembly. Kindly come up here for a special meeting and photo session. Members of Park from the State Houses of Assembly, please come.